I'm not going to watch
today
probably
they
the entire thing, but Trump's not doing good with the Iran war. And also Rubio got questioned by the Senate. And it did not go well for him.
said, oh, well, the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
I don't get bored. I just text all night for.
I couldn't care less. Started to get very boring. Oh, man. I don't get bored, too. I don't care. I got bored.
He went on to say he thought the protracted discussions, quote, started to get very boring, end quote. So much for there's nothing boring about this, which was also a Trump quote. Today, Donald Trump said the reports of stalled negotiations are fake. But no matter what, he has reached what David Sanger of the New York Times describes, quote, the stalemate phase of his presidency. There is, of course, the ongoing war with Iran, not to mention the Ukraine war, which he said back in 2023 he would, quote, end in 24 hours. That war is now in its fifth year. David Sanger writes this.
Yep. Hey, man, what happened to the 24-hour promise you gave us?
Quote, perhaps all of this is the inevitable result of a president with huge ambitions running into the brick walls of global realities. Perhaps it is the result of...
What a stupid fucking response from the New York Times. Are you serious?
of overreach as Trump infused.
He just lied. We know he just lied.
With the success of his first two military adventures into Iran and Venezuela, assumes that there is no task too big for the U.S. military. Some experts suggest that it arises from a fundamental misunderstanding of American power. As one of Trump's close aides said recently, destroying nuclear sites from the air is what America does best. And controlling political events in nations like Iran, Russia, and Ukraine is what the United States does worst. And a further display of the flailing by the Trump administration, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio was
I got some clips pulled up for
on
that.
Capitol Hill today, appearing before Congress for the first time publicly since the war with Iran began, a war which he did not acknowledge at all in his opening statement to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Here's Senator Chris Van Hollen calling Rubio and the Trump administration out.
Netanyahu said he's been waiting 40 years to do this.
You know what? No, I'm just going to go to that Marco Rubio shit. Stop spoiling it for me.
I did talked a lot about Africa, and I raised concerns.
Oh, my God.
And so my...
Okay, we got Cory Booker also to go through.
Mr. Secretary, this is your first public hearing since President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu launched an illegal war against Iran.
Thank you, Van Hollen.
Netanyahu said he's been waiting 40 years to do this. Turns out he finally found a president who was both stupid and reckless enough to join him. The war has killed 14 American service members, wounded hundreds.
I like how aggressive Van Hollen's being here.
More, and killed thousands of civilians. It's driving up the price of gas, food, and much more. Trump obviously doesn't care. He called high gas prices peanuts and said, I don't think about Americans' financial situation. That's from the President of the United States. And all for what? The President told us 91 days ago that we had, quote, won the war in Iran. Last year, he told the country Iran's key enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Was that false? Let's face it, Mr. Secretary, the Trump foreign policy has become a dumpster fire. This is the same president who's more interested in flattering Vladimir Putin than in protecting Ukrainian sovereignty. The president who lifted restrictions on the transfer of sophisticated U.S. chips to China, but came back from his trip there.
What a voice crack. Also, yeah, this guy's pretty strong about pro-LGBTQ, which is like, I know I talk about that in a lot of videos, but we need to check every single person that's running or in office if they're pro-LGBTQ, because it's not an issue that we can put to the side.
With nothing but ballroom envy. He tweeted about that the other day. This is the president who brought on Elon Musk to take a chainsaw to AID, which has enabled the current Ebola outbreak in the DRC. We've also witnessed corrupt crypto deals with the UAE royal family that have enriched the Trump family at the expense of our national security. We've seen an administration engage in extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean, hijack Venezuelan oil, threaten to invade Greenland, and weaken the NATO alliance. Here at home, a Reagan-appointed judge said that you and former Secretary Noem abused your powers when you locked up and still seek to deport students for protesting the destruction of Gaza. The Reagan-appointed judge said you did that, quote, primarily on account of their First Amendment-protected political speech. Speaking of Gaza, the so-called Board of Peace seems to have run around. Meanwhile, while Senator Rubio once proclaimed that the U.S. must, quote, work to ensure that refugees who flee war, torture, and persecution are provided safe environments to live
But no, it's provide no quarter, by the way.
and thrive in. Now, as Secretary of State in this administration, you have capped refugees at a record low of 17,500, and
Jesus.
white South Africans, Afrikaners, have comprised roughly 99% of
Yeah.
those slots, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, baby. Only white South Africans letting out. Dude, that's an Elon Musk thing. For sure, that's an Elon Musk
A
thing.
race-based refugee system. At the same time, the president's preventing Cuban political refugees from entering the United States, even as you've imposed a near oil blockade on that repressive regime. The stated goal is to change the government there, but the only real change is humanitarian crisis inflicted on millions of people not members of the regime. And in that regard, Mr. Secretary, I have a question for you regarding the designation of Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. On the very first week, at least, of this administration, the administration reinstated that. And in a recent January 26 EO, you made statements suggesting connections to Hezbollah and Hamas. The previous administration did a thorough review with the intelligence
Yes, because Cuba is going to fund Islamic extremist groups across the world.
and concluded that there was no evidence
Because Cuba has that much money.
that Cuba was engaged in ongoing state sponsor of terrorism. Did you find new evidence to support that conclusion?
Well, first of all, let me just say that's your question, but you made this long statement of which I disagree with most of it. We won't have time to address every point that you made. So let's stick to Cuba specific, because that's the question that you asked. Cuba has sponsored terrorism. It's supported groups. For example, virtually every left-wing, radical, violent terrorist group in the Western Hemisphere has at some point
Wait, is Hamas left wing now? Is that what they're running with?
relied on support from Cuba. The ELN, the FARC dissidents, including them, have been involved there. We also know, for example, that Cuba continues to host a pretty substantial collection intelligence sites on behalf of the Chinese and the Russians. But you look at the region and you look at all of these leftist Marxist terrorist organizations, all of them, in many cases,
Mr.
got their
Secretary,
money.
Leftist Marxist terrorist. Dude, Red Scare, baby. We're going right back to the Red Scare.
I noticed you did not answer my question, because my question specifically related to whether there was new evidence to support that conclusion. I can just tell you.
Why would I need new evidence?
Because you're claiming that they're a state-sponsored terrorism, suggesting they're ongoingly involved in that. My final question to you, Mr. Secretary, relates to the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex. There have been reports that the United States is working with Israel to take away the Kingdom of Jordan's custodianship over the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex in East Jerusalem. Can you confirm today that there's no truth?
I'm not even aware of those reports.
There are reports, so I was hoping you could
Is
confirm.
that like a media report or?
There have been several media reports. Yes.
Well, you know the media is always accurate.
No, they're not, and that's why I'm getting.
Yeah, no, I've never even heard
Oh.
that. That's the first time I even hear any.
Dog, you look like a bitch right now. Yeah, Marco Rubio is not the person that he's not charismatic enough, man. He's just not charismatic enough.
Anybody discussed that.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Mr.
But we have a great relationship with Jordan, and we're very helpful. I've just never heard that before. You should. I don't know what article you're referring to. Just give it to me. I'll look at it.
I'm happy to.
Is it a credible website? Or?
I'm glad to hear you say, Mr. Secretary, there's no truth.
I've never heard that discussed by
Thank you.
anybody.
Support journalism.
Thank you, Marco Rubio. We'll listen to this Cory Booker segment.
My point is, before we even get to a nuclear
Why are you
negotiation,
doubled?
this regime is getting money to rebuild, purchase more drones, cause more havoc, and this is before we're even trying to get back to.
But I apologize. I don't understand how they're getting this. What revenue are you referring to?
Well, there's two sources of revenue we're seeing. One is the revenue from the Chinese, that's factually documented, and number two, the revenue that you're proposing that they should receive by releasing all of their highly enriched uranium.
Yep. 300,000 from the US, by the way. Or 300 million from the US, by the way. No, 300 billion. Oh my God, 300 billion from the US.
As well as in making a commitment about their enrichment capacities.
Yeah.
Hold on. And that was the exact deal that you guys vilified, that the president and you vilified President Obama from having.
Yeah. No,
So
I don't
here
think
we
those
have
are
a
not the same.
worse situation where
Those are not the same
our
place.
adversary and our enemy, who's causing havoc in the region, who is funding proxies and terrorists, has discovered, thanks to you all, the power of shutting down the Strait of Hormuz.
No, they didn't
which
discover.
is
They
why-
knew that a long time ago, and they've done it before.
clearly, we all knew that a long time ago. That's why this
And they intended to do this at
ill-conceived
some point
war
in the
should have
future
never
as well.
happened.
Yeah, but
You have made our adversary in a stronger negotiating position We are the strongest nation on the planet Earth, and we're in a stalemate with Iran. And now we're begging.
We need to stop doing this, by the way. We're the strongest nation in the world. We are not. We are objectively not. We haven't been for decades. We lag behind pretty much every single developed country when it comes to any sort of investment in our culture, in our infrastructure, in our people. We may have the most military spending, but we spend the most on healthcare, and we have the highest infant mortality rate out of any developed country.
To get back into a deal that you all
We're not
trashed
begging.
in the first place.
There's no one begging. I don't
Clearly,
know.
this is a
Senator
shame.
Booker, your time's up.
But can
Senator
I just-
Rubio, since he's
I do
fallen
want to
over, you
address
can
some of these points
respond.
because they go to the heart of the matter. No one's begging for anything here.
I mean, it's pretty clear that Trump was like, fuck, man.
Iranians might be begging because their economy's losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day. That they are losing. Understand, Iran had street protests going on before all of this started. All of those factors, economic factors in Iran, are far worse today than they were 6 months ago when those protests were happening. They have hyperinflation. Their currency's completely devalued. They're struggling to make payroll for their government workers. Iran is in a
Yeah, but they're going to continue fighting. Like nothing nationalizes a country like a foreign invader. Like at the end of the day, yeah, the Iranian citizens don't like it, but I mean, American military has just been fucking over. Granted, we don't know what's going on exactly inside of Iran. I would love to know what people think on the inside of the country, but yeah, dog, I can't imagine that they're very pro-US right now.
very serious situation. And if it was up to the political class there, and I understand everybody there is sort of radical in some way, but if it was up to the people that actually like go to elections and wear the suits and you see on TV, they'd probably make a deal tomorrow. It's the issue they're facing is that the supreme leader and the IRGC Corps are a little bit more immune from those pressures until they can be convinced otherwise. And I think that's the direction that they're moving in, because the reality I don't know where you're getting this perception that Iran is stronger. Iran has no navy left. They've lost a substantial percentage of their defense industrial base. That Iran has lost a substantial percentage of their missile launchers, and their economy is far worse today, and I mean far worse today, than it was 6 to 9 months ago.
I'll keep this quick. We need a huge number of donations
Get
today.
out of here, James! Yeah, I mean, he looks like a bitch the entire time. I'm not surprised. Right now, everything's been discussed with them that Iran is any sanctions relief is condition based, which means that's to return for the reason why the sanctions were put in the first place, which is their nuclear program. Jesus. Rubio testified to Senate Foreign Relations Committee Tuesday morning for hearings of Trump administration requests to cut the foreign aid affairs budget by 30% to $36 billion while planning a 50% increase in military spending. Yep. Cut foreign aid and increase military spending. When I was talking to my constituents, they asked for economic relief at home, not regime change in Havana or Caracas or Tehran. Instead, you wanted Congress of War Powers notification saying we are not in active hostilities with Iran, while the U.S. is conducting strikes against Iran, and Iran is bombing U.S. embassies and bases throughout the Middle East. This is not consultation. My dyslexia, bruh. It was an attempt to avoid answering to the committee and the Congress about this war. Lawmakers, including Trump's fellow Republicans, have increasingly questioned the fighting as Iran conflict enters its 4th month. 4 months. 4 months of bullshit. 4 months of this bullshit is ridiculous, man. This shit will never not piss me off. I mean, like, it's completely fucking pathetic that we have an American government that, like, our Senate and our House of Representatives are completely fucking useless to stop a foreign invasion or war by the U.S. Presidency. Like, we have nothing. There's nothing that they do for it. They don't stop they don't stop Congress. They let Trump admin do whatever he wants, and then they whine about it. And this is, I mean, at the end of the day, the Trump admin is evil, but you can also blame Democrats for letting them come to this position. It is part of the Democrats' fault for letting Republicans get this so far ahead. And Marco Rubio is such an easy fucking target, man. He's such an easy target. Just take a fucking stab at it. And none of them are saying, oh, is this to distract from your fact that the president is a rapist in the Epstein files? Why is none of them saying that? Not a single senator will say that.